Hey guys, what's up? It's your course director, Emily Ray here. Just wanted to give you a little bit of positive, productive feedback on these portfolio websites that you guys recently submitted. So what I'm going to do is poke through each one individually and point out some areas that I think could still use a little bit of tweaking so you can get this to its next best iteration. So we're going to start here with Shayla. So here we can clearly see the branding, and she is a video editor and a creative. We've got our social media links over here. As I'm hovering over them, I can see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen that they are in fact linking out to other locations on the web for us to be able to get in touch. A lot of times people forget to actually link those and they send people to Wix accounts, and that's a little bit counterintuitive. So I'm scrolling down. I see this a little bit about me. One thing I want to note is you've created a layout where this is fixed here and at the bottom, so it gives a very small window through which to view the content. I can't even actually see your whole About Me message because this little window, the viewable area, is small. I would recommend getting rid of this bottom area here just to give us more viewing space. You give us a nice little background info of you and this really cool kind of fun illustration here. One thing to also note though is that your branding disappears. Like when I scroll down here, I no longer can see whose site this is. My recommendation for all of you would be to make sure that your name or branding information is up here in the header area next to the nav, and that's always consistent and able to be seen. Scrolling down, nothing else there. So I'm going to go here to portfolio. We're going to check out some videos. So I have all the videos, logos, different things that you've done, panels for different platforms. So all of this looks great, but what's missing is the contextualization of these projects. I've got this image, but I can't really understand much about what you did or why you did it, and appreciate more your process and the steps involved in it. You've given me essentially the product, but haven't told me anything about the process or the why or the client. I'd like to see a title and a description of each of these pieces so I can more fully understand and appreciate what you've created. Going to blog, so here we're seeing just a little bit of a write-up about some of the things that you've done. I really like the use of a blog on a portfolio website because it allows you to really talk about your projects and to talk about your process. I think this kind of deeper examination is a really important part of showing your work style and the ultimate value that you can bring to a potential client. Skills, we're jumping over here, seeing some of the lynda.com certifications. So this is cool, and Lynda's are great foundational education to get you started on a learning track. Now that said, we all know that you can press play on a Lynda and walk out of the room. So, the certificate itself, shows that you have access and you maybe have some knowledge of this, but your portfolio is where you should be demonstrating the skills that you have learned in these particular tutorials. So I want you to be thinking about how can I show that I know how to do SEO now as a result of this. Last but not least, let's jump over to contact. Simple form, if someone wants to get in touch, that's a really easy way to do it. This is a nice, it's a complete version of a portfolio website, but it's not a polished one at this point. So make sure you're making these few tweaks to get this to its next best place. Now we're going to take a look here at this portfolio website. So we can see right off the bat, this is, cosplay photography, portrait photography, but the brand itself is a little bit smaller compared to these things here. And so just the hierarchy on the page makes me immediately see these things and kind of discounts this. My recommendation would be to sort of flip the sizing on these two things, so that I can see and understand the identity of the site before, what the creator does here. So we're going to scroll down. We've got like some awesome images, a quote down here, and then just some simple contact information and ways to donate, things like that, sort of the administrative side of some of this. We've got your Instagram and all that information available for connecting on social media. Let's just kind of jump through each of these pages. So we've got cosplay portraiture, so some really beautiful images. When I click on one, it opens up into a new light box, so it lets me see it in a bigger format, which I love. But again, as far as cosplay goes, some of this stuff might be just like absolutely easily recognizable as characters for people who know and love these shows. I might recommend just putting the title of the character as well. I think that would be a nice addition to what we see. Under About, so here we have About and then Contact underneath. So anytime you have any kind of paragraph of text, you want that to be left aligned, meaning that there is an initial starting point that is consistent along this line. The center alignment is good for headings or subheadings, but for paragraph reads, it's actually harder to have this jagged line, so our eyes are wrapping and then coming back around to a new spot. So just make it easier for people to see and read the text that you put there. We have this link to the contact, and it opens up in a new page, so I'm not sure about that I understand the decision to do that. Why is it opening up in another window? If it's a page on your site, it should be opening within the same browser window. And I think that's the same contact page. Okay, so it's the same page, and now this has opened in the same window, so that's something you want to check on that other link. Featured in. So here's where we can see some of your work. So it's really awesome. I love that you're kind of showcasing and giving us like context for how and where your photographs are being used. Client showcase. So here, I'm not sure what this is. I'm going to click on one. And it looks like maybe all of the photos from a particular shoot. So that's really cool. Like seeing that, wondering sort of what the difference is between client showcase and how you're showcasing your work here. I encourage you to be thoughtful about like what's the difference and what is it that you want to highlight. So are you highlighting Allie here? And if you are, and you're sending me kind of over here, how does that benefit you? What if you did a selection of the photos and did maybe like a write-up of the experience or the full creative brief about the project. And then we've got an option to book online. So here, just how we can go ahead and set up a time to get some photos taken. Just one last note, the order of your pages here seems a little, random, sort of. You don't have much on the home page. I would think that you would want to put some of your featured in work. So maybe take a selection of your best photos. So maybe it's these two, and then do your featured in. And so you could consolidate these pages for sure. And then do your cosplay. So like home, about, cosplay portfolio, client showcase, and then contact here. And under contact, you could put the book online. So I think that those pages could be consolidated, just so there's not so many places that someone would have to click around. Here we have Kirsten's site, so a really pretty soft muted color palette. As I'm scrolling down, I can get a little bit of your background here, education and experience. So this is great, really clean. There's a big break here. I encourage you to kind of move this up a little bit more on the page. Awards and interests. So all of this looks great. It seems sort of like randomly and kind of like sporadically listed out here. You have this, have it in sections here that seem like, there's these little containers where the information live, but this part seems a bit just, everything is aligned well, but the spacing of it just doesn't feel as intentional. You've got your social media down here, and it looks like places that we can connect with you elsewhere online, the ability to download your resume, which is great. I'm going to go up here and just kind of poke around. So we've got about, it's going to jump me down, education and experience, comes down, skills and languages, down, awards, awesome, and then I know that's going to poke me down here. I thought it was because that was the behavior. So just something to note there. Like it seemed like this is only a simple one-pager site, but this resume took me to another page here, which is great. I can see that this is selectable text, meaning that it can be indexed and found online. So that's a definite plus. I'm noticing here, media communications, public relations, I don't see much in the way of a portfolio, meaning this is a great sort of presence for you to have online, but none of your projects are showcasing any of your skills and abilities in media and communication. So I think that that's a definite opportunity for you to build upon this. It's very beautifully done, and it's complete as it is, but there's an opportunity for it to be a bit more robust. Next up, we're taking a look at Brandon's. So here we can see very immediately that he's a video editor, and if this could take us to his portfolio. Scrolling down, using this area for kind of an inspirational quote, but that's it on the home page. And so that's a missed opportunity because you know that I came here and you know that I'm probably going to scroll and take a look around, and for you not to maximize the use of this high value real estate, how about you show me a featured work or at least one or two of your portfolio projects here, and then I can start to drill deeper. So I'm going to go ahead and access this. We've got your creative projects. So here we have, some of the videos that you've done, and you've done quite a bit. And like, I love seeing the full scope of this work. As I hover over it, I can see that you do have the title and the description of the work, and also gives me a little bit more context for each one of these pieces, which is great. One thing to note is that when I hover over it, it does give me the little like darkened background so that I can see and read the text. The text would be more readable if it was left aligned, not center aligned, and applied some hierarchy like in the title. You've put it all linear, so I have to keep scrolling. What if you put a couple side by side, right? So you have quite a few on this page, so do it in more of a grid layout than a linear one. And then I can get a better look of all of this like pretty immediately, and then decide which one of these I want to play based upon which ones you promote to the top, but also which ones have titles and or descriptions that speak to me. Jumping over to resume, so here we see it looks like your document is kind of been embedded, which is a fine way of doing it. If I can select the text, then that means that it's editable and able to be indexed. I provided a bit more feedback on this in a previous assignment, so definitely need to see this become more robust as well. There's not enough description on here and not enough keyword content for people to really know and fully understand your skill set and your work history. Last but not least, we're going to jump over to contact, simple form, and ways to get in touch. But again, I want you guys to be thinking about, why do you have portfolios? What are they needed for? If you want to be hired for something, how do you position your contact form to make sure that you're getting the right type of contact from people? So just something to think about. Do you have a call to action? Do you really just want people to get in touch, or do you want people to hire you? That's something that you should make a thoughtful decision about. All right, so here we've got the site of Anthony, and we've got your branding right up front, home, resume, contact. Scrolling down, a little bit about you, places that we can connect on social media, which is awesome. Here we have some featured work, right? So we have some of the graphic design that you've done, commercial for class, just some local stuff, self-published work. And then other ways that we can get in touch, which is great. Hovering over this, I can see that these are linked in the ways that they should be. Couple of notes here. You've done a nice job doing a really nice sort of collection of work here on the homepage and maximizing this space for your message and for what you want to share with people. As far as your projects go, like these are just images, right? And they're relatively small. For graphic design, you might want to give a bigger, version of this so that maybe when I click on the image, it opens up in a light box and you can contextualize a bit more that this was an ad that I made for so-and-so and this is the software that I used, or this was a branding project that I created, for a school, for one of my classes at school, and this was my approach, and these are, the rationale behind my design choices. That would be a missed opportunity for you to not share more about your process that would help people value your work. For your videos, couple of things to recommend for everybody. Number one, custom thumbnails, please. Number two, make sure that you're giving them meaningful titles, not your name and then final mix. Give me a description of the piece so that if I have a limited amount of time and I can only watch one, the title and or description would give me a clue about which one would be most worth my time in that moment. These are small details, but important ones to help people navigate your content. So for resume, scrolling down, we can just see a bit of your background. And so it's great that you've kind of incorporated this into the body of the page instead of having it linked as a separate document. That's my favorite way to approach this, and I'm glad to see that you've done that here. You're leveraging headings and subheadings. My other recommendation would be for you to potentially convert this paragraph text into bulleted lists, right? So short statements. One thing to note is you've got this background image that it kind of becomes makes the text a little bit harder to read when it's on top. So that's something you want to consider with any kind of background, is if it at all interferes with what's on top of it, as in the text in this case, then it's not doing a good job, and you should consider removing it, because what's on top, the top layer, and in this case it's text, is most important. And if I can't read the text, then the design isn't working. Contact. And this is just a simple form, which is great to be able to get in touch and to, my question is to hire you, question mark. So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about on Brandon's site. Like, if you are using your portfolios as a potential income generating or freelance generating source, you want to make sure that you have a call to action here. So it's not just contact me, it's hire me, or find out about how we can work together, something along those lines. All right, so next up we're looking at Jesse's. So very colorful, video game player, content creator, explorer, Dr. Blue Jay. So I'm guessing that's your online handle or personality. We've got these places over here that we can connect with you in all of these spaces, which is great. Connect with your Discord. And then we have the pages here. One thing I'll say is that this amount of text, because this is such a colorful and cool background, the text gets kind of lost on top of it. I would encourage you to maybe seek a way to have that pop a little bit more, and that might be just to put like a sort of a shadow box behind it, something to that effect, just so I can clearly see the identity of your site. We've got all your videos here. I like to see that you have given them meaningful titles. Again, I think that custom thumbnails are the way to go. We've got, it looks like maybe some featured work here, which is awesome. And then it's feeding in your Instagram content and some of your graphic work. So you're very, very talented, which is awesome. And I click on one of these and to see that you have, give it the context to help me fully understand and appreciate what you've created, right? So like, high five, Jesse, on this. So, this is how all of, your projects should be displayed, right? So I better understand what I'm seeing because you've given me this information here. And I can appreciate that you are thoughtful about your designs in this manner. I'm going to jump next to blogs. So here it's popping me down to some of the posts that you've done. This is a little bit of a, about you, and when I follow you, what does that mean? Okay, it's going to, so is this really blogs? This maybe looks like an about page, right? So there's no blog posts here. So I would definitely say about me. Sponsors, who you're sponsored by, which is awesome. And then contact is how we can get in touch. And so again, be thinking about call to action in this space. Overall, this is super solid, Jesse. A few tweaks here will go a long way. Yeah, I think the opportunity, the biggest one here is sort of stylistically to make sure your brand is representing consistently throughout. So maybe even put your name up here in a smaller format so that as I scroll, you see the way that your nav sticks so that the identity sticks as well. All right, so now we're looking at Rob's site. So we got an image up front and then a quote. You've already stacked this content to the point that I can't even fully see the branding picture and one quote. Maybe move this stuff over here, maybe move it up about like this and put your name and the quote underneath it. That would bring all of this content up, which is the about, a little bit higher, right? And so, I'm not having to scroll to get these other bits of information. You've just sort of like kind of drifted out. If I don't scroll, I don't get to see that much. So I would encourage utilizing the high value real estate area to give me as much info as possible in this space. Jumping over to portfolio, again, because of the layout, the page doesn't really change that much. Doesn't give me much different content. We've got your name, the image, and then this little bit of your philosophy, and then thanks for visiting my portfolio. And I've had to scroll quite a bit down here. What are the ways that you can feature one or two projects immediately and visually right here on the home page, and that I could drill down, maybe click on one of those, go to more of a full portfolio? I don't think you need all of this same information pushing the important content, which is like your awesome work product, further down on the page, right? Like, so you're really making me work for this. Promote it to a higher position of priority on this page. under info. So this is just sort of where you're operating out of. Here on the home page, you give me your contact, and then you've got your info here. I would maybe just suggest putting all of the pertinent contact info or whatever down here in the footer of the page, so that way no matter what page I'm on, I can see that. You've got a lot of good stuff, but it's kind of like I said, dripped out. How can you distill it? That is, to make it taste more potent in a smaller amount of space here. Last but not least, we got Mimi Talks. So this is Melissa's site. We've got this kind of cool video background and a layering of a lot of things, like an awesome image, but then, we see sort of this office space, behind. There's a lot going on here, right? I will say that your brand pops out enough, the navigation pops out enough, being successful at you. There's nothing on this page that kind of lets me know what you do. And I think that's a missed opportunity. Like, I actually don't really know what this site is about at all. And so I think that there would be an opportunity for you just to clarify that in a very simple way right here in this area. So here are all of your social media, which is great. Scrolling down, meet Naomi. And so like this, you are not Naomi, and you can tell that this is still placeholder text. I'm digging the layout, but obviously a lot needs to happen here to make this site your own. Because we really just don't see any of your own content here. I appreciate the boldness of this, this template and the color palette, and can obviously envision what this could look like, because it's got all this placeholder stuff in here, which is great. But right now it doesn't have that much about you there. So meet Mimi. So kind of gives us a little bit of your backstory. What I'll say is that it's harder to read a bunch of text with the motion behind it, right? So the video content is compelling, but if your goal is for me to read this content on the page, you're making it a little bit more difficult for me with this footage going behind it there. Under experience, so let's change your life. So these look like maybe workshops. I would maybe change this to workshops because that doesn't quite make a whole lot of sense for like the content that I found here. So what's a more intuitive way to title that link? Resume. This is loading up the page here. It looks like it's going to, it's a big file, whatever it is, and it looks like it's loading in. I'm going to just refresh the page to see what happens. Nothing. So something's broken. You're going to need to revisit this. Oh, nope. All right, so here's an issue. Is it white text on a white background? I'm going to select all, and so I can see, we can kind of see a little bit more of what's happening here. There's a lot that's here that's not being seen. And so you kind of can capture my first sort of impression on this page by saying, oh, there's nothing here, but there is something. And so definitely need to go back in this and revisit what's going on. Under blog, so kind of scrolling down, again, just placeholder content for now, and then contact. Let's engage. Here's ways to get in touch, social media that is connected, a form. Again, really like this format, this layout, the color scheme and everything, but the big issue is the amount of just placeholder content that is here and the relative absence of your work or your content. When leveraging templates, it's totally fine to use one, obviously, but this is nowhere close to being complete because it's going to raise more questions than it answers about your work. I understand, like, for the purpose of this assignment, using it to sort of show what you have planned for it. The expectation here, you guys, is that you will be incorporating this feedback and doing another version of this portfolio website before your next portfolio class. You're really close to graduation, which means that it's time to get this to a place of completion. It doesn't have to be finished, as in like that's all I'll ever do to it, because truthfully, you should always be updating your portfolio. You're going to be doing better work, getting more experience, so it's a living, breathing examination of your skills at any given time. If you guys have any questions about that feedback and the expectation for revising your work moving forward, please let me know.